let's go then to Simon in Florida for Weaponized News on Lebanon. Go ahead, Simon.
Greetings to you, Mr. Galloway, and to your worldwide audience. And I appreciate the difficulties there have been in contacting Mr. Medhurst. Possibly I may, as a poor excuse, be able to fill in for him with some of the other questions you may have wished to cover this evening. Obviously, you've mentioned in the run-up to the break on top of the hour that there has indeed, at the emergency special session number 10, reconvened, since it has been going on and off for many, many years at the UN now, a motion that for the first time ever was actually able to be presented by the state of Palestine, now that they've been given this not quite full membership status, such that it would trigger repercussions from the US Congress, but almost there. They've got a seat amongst the general members in alphabetical order, obviously, and they were actually allowed to present the motion themselves rather than relying upon another friendly nation to do so. The usual rogues catalogue of people voting against them, but as you mentioned, most of the NATO, the so-called golden billion, did actually on this occasion simply abstain. This was following on directly from the advisory opinion given by the International Court of Justice that said that the Israeli presence in total in the occupied Palestinian territories had to cease forthwith. And more to the point, that all member nations were obliged not to give any type of aid that might be used by the State of Israel to perpetuate their occupation. And clearly tens of billions of dollars of cash that could be used for any purpose, courtesy of the US Congress, might achieve that end effect. And incidentally, the man who was largely responsible for seeing that last $26 billion be sent over towards Israel, the current Speaker of the US House of Representatives, is now trying to jam through in a rather frantic measure 13 days before the US government faces another imminent shutdown because they don't have a proper financial budget in place, is trying to persuade his tiny majority to pass unquestionably a 6-month measure that has attached to it what he purports to be a voting integrity measure that seems unlikely to pass today or in the future, which will then have to be backed down upon. That goes to show that the true state of American politics is indeed very dysfunctional. On a plus note, though, for the Republicans, we just had a poll, albeit taken over a rather extended period, of the Teamsters unions, the truck drivers, who aren't particularly happy about some of these green policies that may force them to dispose of all their regular diesel trucks. And it turns out that they've actually indicated that they support President Trump, former President Trump, by 60% versus only 34% for Vice President Kamala Harris. And in hours, we're waiting to see whether or not the Teamsters Union leadership, many of whom have never considered voting anything other than Democrat for the last 40 or 50 years, do actually now officially follow their membership and come out and endorse Trump for president.
It's very significant that I noted, you'll recall, at the time of the Republican National Convention, that the leader of the Teamsters Union was present and gave a speech, a somewhat ambiguous one, gave a speech that was bitterly critical of the Democrats and not of Donald Trump. And I sensed something in the wind. The Teamsters are a very, very powerful institution in the United States. Not only are they vastly wealthy, they are extremely numerous with millions of members, but of course every one of their vehicles is a moving advertisement. And if they go in full scale for Trump, that's going to be quite a significant thing, particularly in the Rust Belt, particularly in the industrialized parts of the United States. This is quite a significant breakthrough for Trump, Simon.
If it's confirmed. But at the same time, in the United States, Britain has summoned the United Nations Security Council in emergency meeting tomorrow to discuss Sudan, and returning to Lebanon, Algeria, in conjunction with the nation of Lebanon, has agreed, and it's been requested to have a United Nations Security Council second emergency meeting concerning the exploding devices, of which there appear to have been many more today. So those matters are coming before the august body, but it remains unknown as to whether or not there will be public session with a motion of condemnation, or it will simply be a closed session consultation, which won't really help man nor beast. However, Nasrallah...
no, but here's the $64,000 question, Simon. None of these things adds up to a row of beans. Public, private. Condemnation, not. Recognition, not. None of them actually change anything for the people lying bleeding in the Lebanese hospitals this evening.
From the pain of their injuries, but also a great deal of aardvark mockery, because the Israeli media have dubbed it Operation Below the Belt, and they've suggested that the southern part of Beirut now be called the Eunuch District for all the devices that explode in their trouser pockets. So it is clearly a very cold-hearted measure indeed, but the leader of Hezbollah has announced that he will be speaking publicly at 5 p.m. local time on Thursday, so that might give us an indication as to the intended reaction. People should bear in mind that it seems that the full Iranian ambassador was also injured from one of these devices during these attacks. So it gives Iran calls to respond as well. It's not purely a Lebanese issue, as you've explained. At least 14 devices were detonated within Syria, and there have been these rolling attacks. It is truly a nation that's flaming out, and it's not purely a bureaucratic decision as to whether or not Gideon Saar is brought in to replace Yoav Gallant, the current Israeli defense minister, who does have 35 years military experience, which his nominated or suggested replacement does not. And it was suggested that if a ground incursion of Lebanon had not happened by this weekend, then a measured swap-out procedure might occur. But it would be a question of jumping from horse to horse in the middle of a race if they were to try and make this change whilst there is really full-scale hostility. But, these are indeed very, very difficult times. People, when they look...
Dangerous times.
Yourself included, sir.
Simon, it's breaking up a bit, so I'll thank you and wish you well with your next edition of Weaponized News.